let's just jump into things, shall we? So we've got some blue-red flash here, one of the many historic decks up on my website. Made some changes with the addition of Jumpstart, how the format's been pushed around a little bit. The big change here is that I've got some Flame Sweeps in the main deck, and I'm rounding out the full 4 Flame Sweeps in the 75. I think Sweep is not only reasonable against goblins. After Muxus comes down, Flame Sweep usually kills every non-Muxus goblin, unless they hit 2 chieftains. Flame Sweep also cleans up well against the Field of the Dead decks. Temur Reclamation in Historic has become a Field of the Dead deck as well now, and that makes sense because they're just playing a bunch of ramp spells anyways, so might as well get some zomboys and girls. We got things like Spectral Sailor and Brazen Borrower and Cutthroat and Bonecrusher Giant. One thing that we might try in here, later after we play a little bit, is that I'm not sure that Cutthroat is a card I'm really interested in playing right now, for a lot of the same reasons that Flame Sweep is good. I think Cutthroat might be a little bit bad right now. There's going to be a lot of people chump blocking, so even if this gets big, it's not going to be able to get through a lot of the time. So let's go ahead and queue up some games with this and see how it goes. As a heads up, I'm going to be live early today and tomorrow because the Magic Pro Tour is going on this weekend, so I want to be live and be done with Magic stuff before the coverage for that starts. Generally speaking, streaming against a major Magic event is bad for the viewer count. Wonder how good Shock will be with only 6 ways to play it on turn 1. So Shock's not just good because you can play it on the first turn of the game. In a deck like what we're playing, Shock is also good just because it fills in your curve, right? So Shock allows you to generate like double spell turns as early as turn 3, or sometimes turn 2 even. So that aspect of Shock is just as important as being able to cast it. Honestly, more important, I think, than casting it on turn 1 is a lot of the time. I think Fibblethip, there's been a Jeskai Breach deck going around, which is what this appears to be. I'm gonna go ahead and unsubstantiate this. Let's get some tempo on. That's not a terrible pickup. How about if we kill this, or send it back into their deck more specifically, and then Sea-Dasher onto here. Smack them for 6. They'll get to Teferi bounce one of these, but then the other one will get to kill Teferi. It's not too bad. And they have a choice here, right? Like, resetting this one resets more mana, but this one takes the counters off of it. So choosing to alleviate some pressure makes sense. They're a combo deck. They want as little pressure as possible. I'm gonna bottom that. I guess the question here is, would I rather draw a card? I think I'm actually going to go ahead and draw a card and then kill Teferi with the Shock since we drew that.
We will meet again.
Yeah, I see some people in chat using the open format command. I had an idea the other night based on something Twitch Rivals had actually done, which was last year one of the Twitch Rivals tournaments when they were still doing those for Magic was they just rotated standard early, which I think actually worked out really well. And now this time through, since I see they are a deck playing Elspeth Conquers Death, I'm actually going to go ahead and slide my squid under Brineborn Cutthroat here, my octopus, so that way this doesn't get exiled by this anymore. So basically, I'm wondering, one of my concerns is that because they're actually just Sky Control with Fibblethip and not Breach, it looks like. One of my concerns with doing more house bans for Historic is that, oh, that was a mistake. Well, I wanted to cast Brazen Borrower, and I forgot that this was more expensive because of that. So probably dead now, actually, because they're going to get to bounce my only threat. We were probably dead anyways, because in fact, I'm just going to concede the match. We're Mythic, and our Mythic rank doesn't matter. And again, like, this is why, right? Like, thinking about Historic right now, like, if we did house bans for Historic, you basically won't be able to test on the ladder. Because, so, when we did house bans for the previous open, Reclamation and Teferi weren't super popular. And whereas, like, today, if I were to say, okay, we're playing Historic without Teferi, without Reclamation, and without Muxus, like, that's probably 9 out of 10 matches on the ladder involves one of those 3 cards. And I really think that, like, is not... Well, the tournament itself might be okay, like, prepping for the tournament and the actual results of it become less meaningful when that's the case. If that makes sense. Maybe I'm supposed to bottom the temple instead of that. Could be a little greedy. Yeah, should have been greedy. I have, like, this to draw extra cards with anyways. Gonna start drawing cards here right away. Yeah, like, obviously you could find matches on Discord, like, people have been doing that anyways, but, like, it still comes back to the, like, okay, how does 4-set standard solve that problem? So, it doesn't. So, 4-set standard doesn't solve the you can't test for it on the ladder. However, 4-set standard makes the coverage and results a touch more meaningful because it allows our tournament to, like, have people preview what some things could look like in standard in the fall. So basically both formats have that same testing issue, but, like, the Historic format doesn't really have the upside of being something that's very applicable forward. Now, the real question in a matchup like this is, like, do we have enough pressure to pair with our disruption to, like, meaningfully interact with our opponent? I think there's a chance the answer is no, especially with cards like Uro hanging out. I think Flame Sweep in general is pretty good. I think in this... Actually, let's opt first so I could find a Syncopate. I think game 1 in matchups like what we're currently playing, we're going to potentially have a hard time because of just how many blanks we have. Like, Flame Sweep's only okay in this matchup, and, like, Shocks and Bonecrusher Giants are, like, basically non-cards. I'm going to put this on here because I basically just, like, need to hit a counterspell or we're going to die. Yeah, I think we're going to be dead here. Now, like, post-board, this Shock turns into a counterspell. So, like, when I have more interaction for the opponent post board, we end up in a better spot here. But we'll see how that all ends up lining up here. That's actually not a big deal, right? Because I can fetch, land, this happens, I bounce before their end step. Actually, do I just bounce Wilderness Reclamation now? Is that crazy? This might be crazy. I don't know. This cannot return any permanent, only spell or creature, unfortunately. Okay, there's an Ionize. I don't know if this is a fight we can win. I feel like the answer is probably no, but let's find out. We need to draw like land, untapped land plus bounce spell. Weird, Moldy. Well, you have a sword, so you'll be in chat regardless, even if there's a little bit of overlap. No, a crappy lawyer. So Expansion Explosion has 2 targets. It targets the person drawing as well. Okay, I mean, like, that was the best draw on the deck, right? It's like looking for more bounce spells. Okay. Go. Lux Ash is a lot of fun. I like that archetype a lot. No, I still play Raid. There's a channel in the subs Discord where a bunch of us play. So one of the reasons why I like Raid as a game is because you can pause it at any point, which card games are not really conducive to doing. So even though I like Runeterra a lot and I play it on mobile occasionally, I can't play Runeterra if there's a chance like one of the kids might need me, right? So I might have to put it down. It's not super conducive to that. So I have 4, 5, 6, 7 mana total. Probably don't need an untapped land. I'm gonna go 3, 3, 1. Probably dead to these sharks though. Maybe these cutthroats can grow to a point that we can punch through. They're flipping Azcanta here, though, at this point, too. Yeah, I guess Uro means that... I guess I can Ionize this, huh? Morning, Farron. Yeah, unfortunately, so today and tomorrow I'll be on early, but I am going to be sticking to my about 11 a.m. schedule. That schedule has worked best for me personally. I appreciate the 12 months. I can throw you a sword. Everything's up on YouTube as always, but on average, the later start time's been good for me. Starting early today and tomorrow because of the Pro Tour going on. We have another expansion explosion here. We're getting Aether main deck, Aether Gusted. Feels Magic the Gathering, man. Feels Magic the Gathering. These decks run Flame Sweep pre-board. The opponent's archetype does, yeah. They play Magma Quake 2 now, usually. Okay, and I think Field of the Dead means we're just dead at this point. Because, like, even if I, like, somehow power these up, they're just gonna have an endless stream of blockers at this point. I guess we have one more Flame Sweep in my main deck I could draw to. We had a Flame Sweep, we could kill them, right? Yeah, I think the voting on the open format's been pretty close. I think I'm currently leaning towards if Wizards doesn't ban anything themselves, we're gonna end up doing 4-set standard. I think is about where I'm at in my life. Kill one of their flying dorks. Play this. What is 4-set standard? Basically, we'll just rotate. We'll rotate standard early without the new set coming in yet. We'll say, okay, it's the last 4 sets. 4-set standard. Sorry about that, children. Oh, I should have blocked this, right? I guess they're probably gonna Flame Sweep me. Maybe I should have Cutthroat blocked that. They have Magma Quake, we're just dead, right? Well, I guess Magma Quake doesn't kill my flyers. I don't think Flame Sweep is actually that good in this matchup. I know it would have been fine there, but ideally, we just have more counterspells post-board, which means we never get to a point like that game where our opponent just has everything super gummed up. It's not really greedy, a crappy lawyer. So one of the things I would encourage you to break yourself of when it comes to understanding Magic and building good decks with good mana bases, your lands don't dictate whether or not you're greedy. Your ability and percentages to cast spells consistently on time dictate how greedy or not greedy your mana base is. So, like, if you look at these decks, sure, they're playing Field of the Dead, but they're also playing, like, 28, 29, sometimes even 30 lands on occasion. So, like, the number of blue and green mana sources that they have in their deck is plenty to cast their spells consistently. A lot of people seem to have this idea when it comes to working on and thinking about magic decks that, like, okay, if Syncopate's great against Uro, by the way, that, like, okay, if what determines I'm greedy is just like what spells I put in my deck, it's like, well, it's really how your spells line up into how your spells also align with your mana base. Yeah, I'm doing early today and tomorrow, Kenix, because of the Pro Tour going on. Huh, you know what? Maybe I'm supposed to... Alright, well, it didn't matter. I was gonna say, maybe I'm supposed to unsubstantiate my own creature here. How am I liking the everyday shorter streams? I like them a lot better, Kenix. Longer days are better for Twitch viewer account, but shorter days have been better for my sanity. I also look forward to working more the next day when my day before it is shorter. Less drag. I don't know. It's like Psychologist, thanks for the 22 months. I don't plan to, like, quit Magic altogether, but I think I might have to, speaking of shorter days, I think I might have to scale back to one deck a day for the short term. Historic, now that they've figured out Teamer Reclamation, it really has a lot of just the same Standard does. It's really pretty frustrating. Just, like, not good games of Magic. Thanks, Faye. Yeah, it's basically turned into Standard with better lands, is accurate. There's, like, kinda randomly a Goblins deck floating around too, but, like, the Goblins deck is probably gonna get edged out by these Reclamation decks. God bless people like Croakies that can slog through it. I just don't have it in me. Hey, look. Definitely leaning towards let's just play the Open next month as early rotated Standard. That would be a lot more fun to both cast and for people to play in. I mean, I think the answer to how Croakies does it is Croakies enjoys playing the best decks, right? That's just never how I've enjoyed playing Magic. But if, like, there are a lot of people like Croakies that, like, that's all they do, right? They love just, like, playing the best decks. They like playing best deck mirror matches. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Yeah, like, he's a spike. If that's what you're into, the current format's fine. I really hope that the survey wizard sent out collects data that pushes them into managing their stuff. The questions that they asked on the last arena survey really make me feel like they have some inkling that things are bad at the very least. Like, there were questions about, do you think arena is on the way up or the way down? What are your thoughts on formats, etc.? So I'm hoping that the type of feedback they get on that pushes them into, like, actually doing their job. Would be my hope. Yeah, I agree. They asked really good questions on that survey. Now, whether or not they come to the appropriate conclusions is another question. But the questions that they asked were good questions, in my opinion. Mid-range decks haven't really been playable since War of the Spark happened. Correct. Agree, Dingleberries. There was a link to the survey on my Twitter. If you scroll back a bit. So far, our deck has not felt particularly competitive. So, pretty sure they have Dispute. Yeah, learning and understanding the turn system in Runeterra is a big level up moment. It definitely feels a little awkward and different coming from Magic, but once you understand how it works, it gives you an incredible amount of room to leverage play skill and generates a lot of extra in-game decisions in a really pleasant way. The priority system in Runeterra is a big part of what I like about the game. Passives on walkers was a huge mistake. I disagree with that. I mean, like, just off the cuff, 3-mana Domri and 3-mana Tibalt are great examples of planeswalkers with reasonable static abilities. What's her name? The 4-mana that makes a 2/2 and loots when it happens. She has a reasonable Planeswalker static as well. Again, don't write off an entire Kazminia. Yeah, the Kazminian Devil, right. Don't write off entire card types. Ashiok static text is... Ashiok I could go either way on. Ashiok's definitely like prison adjacent in an often frustrating way. 3-mana Kiora is a really good one. Definitely agree with 3-mana Kiora. All right, let's try this again. Yeah, the ordering on your attacks mattering is huge too. It makes for a lot of permutations of different decisions you can make that allow for a heavy amount of in-game player agency. Champions can only block champions. That's not true, Ice Boy. Champions are just a normal unit inside of combat. They can attack or they can be blocked by anything and block anything. Maybe something on your board the board was elusive. Elusive is like flying and prevents things from blocking. There. Work a dark. Bottom of an island here. I think Reclamation is bad enough that it'll eventually make its way into Modern. It's already in Modern. It's already in Modern. To fall down a little bit. It was up there. It was up higher. Is it not on the top page anymore? There was a Reclamation deck going around Modern. I don't see it at a glance anymore. Yeah, it's funny. I believe Reclamation is actually templated the way that it is at end of turn because they were trying, and this is actually kind of an interesting commentary on Magic having to support so many different game modes. Is I'm pretty sure Reclamation is templated like it is instead of Seedborn Muse because of EDH. They didn't want Reclamation to untap players' lands every single turn in like a multiplayer game. So they instead were like, okay, you just get to use double your mana instead of having it instead of having it be on every single player's turn. shocking or stomping here our Cutthroat's pretty bold. Got it. Alright, this is exactly the kind of game we want to play if we're going to win here. Sure, one of the dev teams said that Reclamation was made to give extra mana for Adept initially, but the reason why it's templated to give you the mana at the end of your turn instead of your opponent's upkeep is because of multiplayer EDH. So both of those things are true. Alright. Who would win? Team of Reclamation or one unsubstantiated boy? We're on the scoreboard at least. People, remember when people thought Siege Rhino was oppressive? Ah, Siege Rhino. Yeah, or Carnage Tyrant is another good one. I'm gonna keep this actually. We're on the draw and we have an opt and just have like a ton of disruptive cards that we really want here. I missed the banned Carney Tea Time line, right? Not really, Marty. I have, like, reasonably high engagement on social media stuff in general. Okay, well, they don't have a land, so I'm just not gonna blink. I would love another threat. Thank you for asking. It's not Cutthroat. probably done. Opponent stumbled, and I have 4 counter spells in my hand. This is the part where in Paper Magic, you just like play with your hand face up on the table and just be like, you let me know whenever we're done here. I think they have Dispute. So, like, if they blink here and let us cast a spell, we technically kill them, right? This is 8 power and they're at 9. They take a hit from this. Ionize becomes lethal. Bye, friend. Alright. I feel like if we're just going to play into an endless slew of Team of Reclamation, I probably need to readjust my main deck answers a little bit. I'm going to cut these shocks and put 3 disputes and a flame sweep in my main. How do you feel about some amount of Spell Pierce? Spell Pierce could be good too. Now you're just gonna go. I did add a 3rd flame sweep to the main. And I've got a 4th sweep in the board and Redcap. And like, counter spells aren't strictly bad against goblins, right? Like, counterspelling Muxus is a big game. I think I'm leaning that way anyway, Beansy. The poll's pretty close to 50%. It's the old 5th flame sweep. know that Mystic Dispute I would really consider a sideboard card. Like, the fact that it counters non-blue spells is a big deal. Won't be under Recollection anymore this set? Yeah, something like that. Okay. Hey, Bog Stomper. Thanks for the 2/3 of the year. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me around. Pretty sure we just let this happen. We'll counter Reclamation if they cast it. Cameo, eh? What are they playing? It looks like... I mean, are they just like missing red mana? Like it looks like the old Nexus of Fate decks. Like what are they winning the game with?
My mind needs a rest.
Well, I mean, I've got 4 Bonecrusher Giants in my deck, so like Root Snare's not too big of a deal. There's like there's just a ramp deck with like Root Snares and Planeswalkers. Narset seems weird in a ramp deck. The rest of it seems fine. This will probably induce them to Root Snare. Really? Okay. I can still draw with this on my turn, on their turn, sorry. This is 1 card per turn. Nailed it. Nice magic card. Get out of here. Yeah. Nice Root Snare. You know, Questing Beast and Bonecrusher Giant are legal in this format, friendo. Did nobody tell you? Don't tell Scotty, chat. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. What do I cut? This is my spew tag. 6 to the Biddy's lawyer. I think I might actually trim a couple of Bonecrusher Giants post-board. I think there's a chance they go down on Root Snare because they can't really depend on it against us anyways because of this card. And, like, I'm swapping this for counter spells anyways, so we'll have a similar effect. Either way on this hand, I think with Dispute it's probably keepable. Remember, we can just play this out as a 3-drop, but it doesn't really seem to have blockers. Welcome to the party, Cutthroat. So, we're done here. Yep, I'm gonna put this on here and then they're dead. Cheap creatures and counterspells, chat. Cheap creatures and counterspells. Tempo. Tempo. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Ooh, opponent is rank 57 and also playing cheap creatures and counterspells. Stu, Uncle Jeff. Thank you for the 14 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Just keeping me around. That happened? I think. This hits my opponent's flying creatures. This is wrong. I'm just gonna lose this race at this point. Yeah, this is probably wrong. Yeah, Spirit's deck seems decent. I think there's a good chance the Spirit's deck's just like a better version of what we're doing. So I'm taking 2 here. But then they have 8 power left in play. So we're probably dead. So I need to draw... It's an okay draw. I ideally need to draw another Flame Sweep. If I draw a second Flame Sweep, I clear their board out, right? Great. Has text. So... I think we're bouncing the Eagle and then stomping the Shacklegeist. Comes the beats. Morning lyrics. And again, just like pretty peak Magic the Gathering. I made some changes to our deck to make us better against the matchup that we had just played 4 times in a row. And now we're playing this matchup and I just don't have any shocks in my deck now. Like I have Fiery Cannonades I can bring in, I guess, but for the most part, my deck is now much worse in this matchup than it previously was, with 4 shocks in it. Because Magic is so incredibly polarizing that you have to have lots of really strong answers, which means you have to give up points in other places. How do we kill the X3s? We counterspell them. Or we play 2 sweepers, or we play a sweeper plus a Bonecrusher Giant. They only have 4 X3s in their deck. I'm going to say this, and then they're going to have 1 or 2 of them, but they technically don't draw them every game. Well, when we drew the 3rd land of the 4th land, it was like, okay, this is fine. Now it's kind of like, I assume this is going to get counterspelled. The classic mulligan to 5, haven't drawn a spell in 4 turns. Oh, you know what? I should play this land because their lofties are counter unless you pay 4. I don't even know if that really matters. Lofty's just gonna counter something else. I'm gonna get disputed now for holding the land again. Sorry, Lofty. Yep. So Shacklegeist with Supreme Phantom teams up to tap this. I don't know, Tuber. I don't really like questions like that because they're not really actionable or productive. They don't yield any useful, like, useful results. I don't... I'm gonna take the rest of the day off. I don't really feel like playing any more games. I'll catch y'all tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow morning.